Hello, welcome to Undercover. I'm your host, Kevin Bousquet. I'm a licensed private investigator. Welcome to the show. Folks, imagine for a minute, if you will, you're on vacation with your family. You're gone for a couple of weeks. You're there with your wife and your kids. You're gone. You come back to your house and you find somebody else living in your home. Or alternatively, imagine, if you will, you're at work, you're working, and you get a call from a bank who says that they're about to foreclose on a second mortgage on your home, yet you had no idea there was a second mortgage on your home. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of mortgage fraud. And this is a very special show to me. I am actively involved in mortgage fraud in my business. And I really, in this show, when you're listening to this show and you're watching this show, don't think for 1 second that if you own a home and you have equity in your home that you could be immune to this problem. This is one of the most rapidly growing crimes in Canada. It is completely out of control, and I'm urging you to listen carefully and just to follow along with this. Now, my guest today is Jay Somerset. Jay Somerset is an investigative journalist. He works independent. He has recently written an article in Maclean's magazine that has caused a lot of people to take this problem seriously. Now, Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin.
Now, Jay, maybe if you could just kind of walk us through. You've interviewed a number of the victims of this particular crime.
I have, yeah.
And can you kind of just give us an idea as to some of the situations that you've seen, people who have been, whose lives have been changed by this particular issue?
Well, these are all cases where the victims are completely innocent. They had no idea that anything was going on. They're cases where someone goes to sell their house and they realize they don't own it anymore. Someone gets a call. I spoke with one woman who received a call from a mortgage lender saying that she was 3 months behind on a house that she didn't even know existed. And she thought it was the wrong number. When she got home that night, she did some more research and realized there was another one in her name as well. So these are cases of stolen identity. These are cases of completely innocent victims that their lives are shattered. They go into debt. Even if they get their home back, they've spent $10,000 on lawyer fees. They're the ones that are prosecuted because the banks come after them because their names are on the mortgage documents. So these are people that are completely innocent and in big trouble.
Right. Now, we should probably explain the scam and how this works, and correct me if I'm wrong throughout how it works here. Essentially what happens is I own a home, and let's say I have an average home, $250,000 home, and let's say I have some considerable equity. I've got a first mortgage for, let's say, $100,000 on my home, a mortgage, and there's that available equity. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, what happens in this scam is somehow, some way, someone is going to impersonate me. They're going to say they're me. They're going to register a mortgage on my home.
Right.
I.e., they're getting a loan, and they're securing that loan on my house. They get that money from the security of my second mortgage, and then they take off, never to be seen again, correct?
That's exactly how it can happen.
Now, how is it they're managing to... Let's go by way of an example. I own a house, okay? This guy has gotten a mortgage on me. I have no idea. Now I'm stuck. I've got a mortgage company calling me. They're threatening to foreclose on my second mortgage, on my house, destroy my life, my kids. I have to uproot my kids. I'm going to lose my house on something that I didn't do. Now, how are they getting my information, and how are they registering these mortgages? How's it working?
They're drawing up fake documents in some cases. These people are very sophisticated. They can do... Some of them have made fake passports, bank stamps, certified checks, and they go into the land transfer office and impersonate you and simply make a change.
Now,
take out a mortgage.
Okay, where are they getting, like, for example, if I have a passport, let's say, like, are they manufacturing these passports?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about, like, things like driver's licenses and stuff?
All those things are, they can make anything, basically.
Okay, and so they're going into a bank. They're saying they're me. They're coming in with these documentation. Okay, the documentation. So is there any part of the bank here that is responsible for, allowing this to happen?
They're supposed to do their due diligence, and they say that they are, but some of these things are just so sophisticated that they couldn't tell.
Okay.
And It looks like you. How are they to know it's not you?
Okay.
And this is especially the case now because so many transactions are done electronically, so they don't know your face. They've never actually met you face to face, so they wouldn't know the difference.
Now, can you tell me some of the stories of some of these victims that you've interviewed? You were saying in the green room about a particular lady who was impersonated. Can you walk us through maybe just one or two stories of
Sure.
people you did your research on and what
Okay.
they told you?
I spoke to one woman, and she got a call one day from a mortgage lender saying, "You're 3 months behind on your home in Brantford, Ontario." And she said, "What are you talking about? I've never even been to Brantford." And she thought it was the wrong number. The person was not joking. She suddenly realized, I'm in big trouble. And then when she got home that night, she started looking around, and she realized, well, this had happened twice. So somebody had stolen her identity and just gone out and gotten loans in her name, walked off with the money. By the time she realized, which was 3 months later, the fraudster was long gone, and she was on the hook for $400,000
Wow.
in back payments. So you'd think when something like that happens that, okay, I'm an innocent victim, no problem, I'll just go to my lawyer and this will all be wrapped up, it won't affect my credit. Well, it took her more than a year to even get her credit back, let alone all the legal fees that she had to pay. I mean, it was a real headache. And here's someone that was a completely innocent victim. There's another case of a man who his mother wanted to sell their home because his father had died and it was just getting too big for her to live in. So when they went to sell the home, they realized they didn't actually own it anymore. It had been sold recently, and they even had the cell phone number of the fraudster. They went to the police, and the police proceeded to question him and his brother for a couple hours.
Now, him being the fraudster or
No.
the owner of the home?
The son of the owner.
I see.
His mother owned the home. So they didn't bother to go after the fraudster. They ended up being sued by the banks. The person whose identity was stolen was sued. Everybody was sued, and the fraudster walked off.
Okay. Now, what are the police doing about this? So I've been a victim here. My credit bureau has been ruined. Everyone knows that when your credit bureau is ruined, it's ruined. It takes forever to try and reestablish your credit. It takes forever to try and get the correct information put on. So let's say, for example, I've been a victim of this. I pick up the phone and I call the police. And I said, look, can you come over here, please? I got some documentation to show you, whatever. Because that's what the average person would do.
Sure.
Call 911 or call the police. What's going to happen with the police from your research?
They will make a file, and they will start perhaps to look into it. Chances are they already know that this is going on.
Okay.
And it'll just, these cases are very complex, and they end up just being filed away. I mean, there was one in Edmonton last year. It was a $30 million mortgage fraud scheme going on. They had something like 250 houses. There were so many houses involved with the scheme that it affected the real estate value of the whole city of Edmonton. And this was a case that the police were well aware of for years and couldn't lay charges. And the only people that were getting in trouble were the victims who were being taken to civil court. And they finally did charge six people.
They're being taken to civil court. The victims are being taken to civil court by who?
By the lenders, by the banks, because it's the victim's name on the mortgage document. So when nobody makes a payment, the lender is going to go after the person whose name is on the document.
Okay.
So this is a civil matter. Whereas the criminal matter, this $30 million problem, this was the first, they charged 6 people, and it was the first time they ever laid charges, criminal charges, in Edmonton.
Okay, so they found the guy who did it. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was, they charged 6 people.
Okay, and what is the status of that? Are these people serving time in some big institution?
I don't believe so. I think it's either ongoing or it's tangled up in the courts right now.
I mean, in your research, are you aware, okay, let's go this route. What would you suggest that the conviction rate is as far as, first of all, finding these people, and secondly, actually succeeding in convictions?
It basically doesn't exist. There's one man in Montreal who's already been charged with mortgage fraud and other fraud-related charges several times, and I think he's served a couple days in jail in
Okay.
total.
All right.
And this is, I think he's been charged at least 5 times.
Okay. Now, you're saying in the green room about another person in one of the towns, and the people saw the guy who was doing this mortgage fraud, and he was in a
Right.
donut shop? What's
Yeah,
the story
I was
behind that?
speaking with a lawyer who was representing the big banks of Canada, and as well as other lenders, and they had a settlement. It was a big case out west, and when I asked him, what happened with the fraudster, and the real criminal here, and he said, the friend of him saw him eating dinner in a Calgary restaurant. And he's not even in hiding. He's not worried. He's not even being charged.
Probably because
Yeah.
would that be your position, that he probably knows that nobody can touch him civilly and criminally?
That's right. Yeah.
I see.
These are very sophisticated.
But okay,
people.
but I mean, everyone's going to want to know. Okay, that's listening to this story. First of all, people aren't going to take it seriously. They're going to sit back in their little couches and think, "Oh, this could never happen to me." Whatever. This is not just a specific city problem. Would you say it's
No.
it's everywhere? Correct.
No, it's everywhere. It's happening in small towns. Another town out west, which was essentially a ghost town. I mean, I think there was 500 people living in it, and there was major fraud there. Somebody had taken over. I think there were houses being rebuilt,
Okay.
and the entire thing was a fraud case,
Wow.
including the construction. These houses were being built to be fraud cases.
Okay. I mean, Jay, everyone's going to want to know, all right, why is it we're not catching them? Why is it they're not being prosecuted in the courts? Like, why is it that, this guy was set to go free? Like, I'm curious myself. Why is it that we're not seeing justice from the criminal end? Or
That's a good question. I don't really know. I mean, it's just these cases are very complex, and nobody's willing to take full responsibility of it.
Okay.
Because from the bank's perspective, they'll say, well, we're out money, so we need to get our money back.
Okay.
And the victim side, they're saying, well, we're obviously the victim, and we want the fraudster to be the one that pays up.
Okay.
And the governments are saying, well, this is just very complex, and everybody has their hands tied, basically.
Okay.
Nobody's willing to step up.
What about, for example, crowns in the court and stuff like that? I mean, ultimately, a police officer finds this guy, they put the grab on him, they put him in jail, they bring him before the court. Like, what's happening when he gets to court? I don't get it.
He doesn't get to court,
Okay.
for the most part.
All right. And why is that? I don't understand.
I don't understand it either. I mean,
Okay.
they know these people exist,
Okay.
and I suppose it's just because they don't have the manpower to do it. When I was speaking with the RCMP, they were saying that these cases take hours and hours and hours. I know that's vague, but the manpower that was involved. It wasn't worth it for them. I mean, they were just everywhere they turned. Nobody wanted to talk. The victims didn't want to talk. The banks didn't want to talk. The lenders, the insurance companies. So they were just, even if they were trying to prosecute
Okay.
or to find the criminals, they were just reaching dead ends everywhere they
All right.
went.
Let's say, for example, this guy that is out there, out in the open, who's committed fraud, thinking no one can touch him. So, I have had to spend all of this money in legals to try and get my life back, to try and correct it. I want to go and I want to sue this guy. There he is. I know where he lives, and I want to sue him. Is there anything preventing me from suing him?
You can attempt.
Okay.
But again, these aren't dime store criminals.
Okay.
They tend to be people that are very sophisticated.